welcome back to the Amber Alert channel. This is actually part one of a two-part video on tips for labor and delivery. So in part one of the video, I'm going to share with you guys things that you should do ahead of time before actually being in labor. And then part two of the video will be things that you do while in labor or things that you should know. So let's get started. The first thing that I recommend is register ahead of time. So if you are giving birth in a hospital or birthing center, you need to really find out what the process is in terms of registering. So some hospitals do allow you to register, pre-register, and that way when you get there, you won't have to worry about, oh, can I see your insurance card, while you are bearing down with this big 6-7 pound baby coming out of your vagina. What happened with me, my hospital did not allow us to pre-register. So when I got there, and I can barely keep my eyes open, they're like, oh, do you have ID? Do you have it? I'm like, if you don't get out my face and get me to the room that I need to be in. So it was a little crazy. The second thing that I recommend is for you to create your birth plan. Now, I want you moms to know, everything does not go as planned. My birth went nothing like my birth plan. However, it's good for you to have this image or picture in your mind of how you want your birth to go and things that you can do to accomplish that possible birth. So, for example, my birth plan was a natural vaginal birth. So, of course, I looked up positions to labor in and things I should know about vaginal birth. And I watched numerous videos, read numerous books so that I was prepared when the time came. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys, you are never prepared for birth, okay? I watched so many videos. I watched some videos of moms just like, and the baby was there. I watched some videos of the moms screaming to the top of their lungs. I watched every video you can think of, every podcast you could think of, and I still wasn't ready for what happened to me, okay? So I'm telling you guys right now, you can never be 100% prepared, but all you can do is try. One of the books I read was this one, Natural Childbirth, the Bradley Way, and this just goes over the Bradley method, and it's a really good method if you are going to have a birth partner. So whether it's your boyfriend, husband, or your mother, your doula, whoever, this book was really good. And that brings me to my third point. Find out who you want in your laboring room, and make sure other people know that they are not invited in your labor room. The next thing I recommend is birthing ball. So I talked about the birthing ball in my hospital bag video, but I think that the birthing ball really helps you to just help push the baby down. And it's not something that you have to do only in labor. You make that birthing ball your life for your third trimester. Like, I was bouncing on that birthing ball for the last few weeks of my pregnancy, and it really helped me. I feel like even when with my back pain and with the cramping Braxton Hicks contractions that I was having, I would get on the ball and it'll make me feel better. So I definitely recommend getting a birthing ball and just getting on it, even if it's for 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the night, however long you can afford to be on it, and utilize the birthing ball. The next tip that I have would be utilize relaxation techniques before your labor. The reason I say this is because a lot of times we read all these things and we're like, okay, when we get into labor, we'll do them. But if you've never practiced these things, how are you going to know what exactly works for you? Or how do you know that you're doing these things correctly? Things have different effects on different people. So if you feel like music is going to annoy you, or this is not going to work for you, you need to know that ahead of time so that you don't even waste your time with these things. If you want to be massaged during your labor, have the person that's going to be with you practice massaging, practice the places, so that that person knows ahead of time. Obviously, when you're in labor, as I said, you don't know what to expect. Things can change. You can end up wanting something completely different from what you practice. But the more you practice things, the more you can say, okay, I liked that. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Rather than going in there completely clueless and not knowing what exactly you want. The next thing I recommend, which I did, is going to a birthing class. It's not 100% necessary. Nowadays, I feel like every resource is on YouTube, on the internet. You can Google resources, you can read books on everything that they're gonna teach you in the class. However, something about just like being in person, being in an interactive setting, it made things set in my mind a little better. So I definitely recommend, if you are one of those type of learners and you do have the money and the resource to go out and go to a class, I recommend you take it. Take the opportunity, go out to a class. You also meet other laboring moms and you're able to just interact with other people and hear other people's stories. I feel like it's so important. Another thing that I recommend is just make sure your provider is aware of your plan and what you want done during your labor. So for example, I had my contractions had slowed down, but I didn't want Pitocin, and my nurse actually recommended an enema, and she said that the enema, she's had mothers in the past take an enema, go to the bathroom, poop, full of poop. I was full of poop, all the poop was released, and then my contractions started again. So if you have providers who are on board with your plan, they can recommend things that have worked in the past that go along with your plan, basically is what I'm saying. So make sure your provider is on board and knows what exactly you want, and discuss with your provider. I discussed with my provider ahead of time when I was choosing my hospital. I wanted to know prolonged cord clamping. Like, do you have to cut the cord right away? I want my cord to not be clamped right away. I want it to stop pulsating before you cut it. I also want to know, do I have to give labor on my back? I didn't want to give labor on my back. I want to be able to switch positions. Maybe I want to give labor in a squatting position, in a side lying position. So these are questions I asked. I also asked for the monitoring. Do I have to be on the monitor the entire time I'm in labor? Or can it be intermittent? Can I walk around? Do you have portable monitors? So these are all questions that you may want to consider asking your provider before settling on a specific provider or a specific hospital. I also recommend drinking red raspberry leaf tea. I'm going to put a picture here. Red raspberry leaf tea, I'm going to just read you. It's known to boost blood flow to the uterus and strengthen the uterine muscle fibers, and it is believed to have the potential to trigger contractions, but it mostly to strengthen your uterus so that you don't bleed out. It decreases your chances of a lot of postpartum bleeding. So I did drink red raspberry leaf tea. I don't know if it particularly induced my labor. I don't know. They say to drink this more so in the 3rd trimester. You don't want to drink it too early because you don't want to trigger contractions too early in your pregnancy. So it is recommended, but notify your provider, talk to your provider before you take any advice that I am giving you, because I am not a medical professional. Okay. I mean, I'm a nurse, but I'm not a maternity professional. So that is everything for part 1 of my tips for labor. Stay tuned for part 2 of this video, guys.